The unforgettable fury of Mount St. Helens. Adapted from the 1980 Miracle of St. Helens, a volcanic blast flattened forests in minutes. Imagine a peaceful Sunday morning, the sun barely peeking through the Pacific Northwest's evergreen canopy. On May 18, 1980, Mount St. Helens stands majestically against the dawn sky, its snow-capped peak a familiar and comforting sight. But beneath this serene facade, the mountain draws an ominous breath. In a hushed moment before devastation, there's an eerie stillness, a tension that feels almost electric hanging in the air. Then, with a suddenness that defies comprehension, the mountain explodes. But this isn't a typical volcanic eruption with lava flowing downward. Oh no. St. Helens chooses a different, more terrifying expression. The Earth's rage unfurls sideways, a cataclysmic lateral blast that shreds the mountain's northern face. Picture this, a horizon-wide avalanche of rock and ice, propelled with unimaginable force, as if the very soul of the mountain has been unleashed. There is a deafening roar, louder than anything you can imagine. The shock wave reaches outward, flattening everything in its path, transforming vast forests into matchsticks in mere seconds. Trees that stood for centuries are laid low, like soldiers after a charge, creating a surreal, apocalyptic landscape. Mount St. Helens had roared, and for those who witnessed it, nothing would ever be the same again. In that single, explosive moment, nature's fury became a dramatic chapter in history, leaving us to wonder at the incredible and sometimes lethal power of the Earth. The scene captures the sheer force and chaos as trees are swept aside in the wake. The sky is filled with a dark, roiling ash cloud, and the ground is a blur of movement and destruction. Let's take a step back to appreciate the calm before nature's fury erupted. Mount St. Helens, a composite volcano in Washington state, had slumbered peacefully for over a century. To locals and tourists alike, this towering giant was a picturesque spot for hiking, skiing, and embracing the serene beauty of the Cascade Range. But beneath its tranquil surface, the mountain harbored secrets. Seismic murmurs and gas emissions, subtle whispers of the chaos to come, began months earlier. Scientists, their eyes and instruments trained on the mountain, noted the changing shape of the summit. A bulge, growing ominously on the volcano's north face, was a balloon filled with geological angst. It was as if the mountain was swelling with secrets it could no longer contain. The warnings were there, albeit to those who understood nature's cryptic language. Residents remembered old tales of the mountain's temper, but who could imagine such a tempest? For the unsuspecting, life continued, people oblivious to the imminent cataclysm lurking beneath. But what unresolved forces built within that day would transform awe into terror, forever reshaping the land and lives enveloped in its shadow? How quickly tranquility can morph into chaos. How swiftly nature can revert from calm motherhood to ruthless destroyer. In contrast, villagers and scientists are seen on the ground, some observing the growing bulge on the mountain's north face, signaling an underlying tension against an idyllic backdrop. The world as it was known shifted fundamentally on that fateful May Day. As the clock ticked towards the limits of morning, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, the bulge exploded in an inconceivable display of nature's power. An enormous pyroclastic flow, a scorching, fast-moving avalanche of gas and rock poured out from St. Helens's north face. Its velocity surpassed 670 miles per hour. In less time than it takes to read these words, entire landscapes were converted to otherworldly vistas. Forests, homes, and all traces of the civilized world stood no chance against this force. Can you imagine the terror of those who found themselves in its path? From a safe distance of 19 miles away, famed volcanologist David Johnston's last words, "Vancouver! Vancouver! This is it!" encapsulated the grim realization. Despite all precautions, despite all human ingenuity, the wild cannot always be tamed. Survivors spoke of the ground shaking violently, akin to an earth-shattering quake. The air became a thick, unbreathable soup of ash. Darkness overtook daylight as the sun disappeared behind a shroud of volcanic debris. In moments like these, standing on the precipice of oblivion, one might question the providence of survival. It wasn't just a volcanic eruption. It was an upheaval of the very notion of safety and permanence. The mortal realization, we are but tempests amidst the universe's greater, often unpredictable design. The scene conveys velocity and terror, with the sky turned to dusk by ash and tiny figures running from the unfolding chaos. In the aftermath of the eruption, the world saw Mount St. Helens transfigured, a place where life had seemed endless, now likened to the moon's desolate surface. The lateral burst had obliterated 230 square miles of pristine forest, making cliché the testament of destruction. For miles around, the landscape swelled with ash and debris, a new and unfamiliar existence painted in tones of gray and silence, still thick with the scent of sulfur and scorched earth. Life, both human and animal, found itself at the mercy of nature's recalibration. Those who returned to view the wreckage, from ashes rise testimonies, the crescendo of human stories born from survival, from amidst the harrowing riddle of resilience. Some deemed it a miracle, others a grim testament to the fragility of life. Even in recovery, nature worked in mysterious ways. Amidst fallen trees and charred lands emerged patches of green, life daring to grasp once more towards the sky. A phoenix rising from pulverized woodland. But what are we to learn from such raw displays of the Earth's formidable spirit? That resilience is intertwined with sadness? Perhaps it is nature's testament to the inevitability of change and the cyclical dance of creation and ruin. The landscape is barren and gray, with trees flattened in a wave. Hints of green begin to poke through the ash, symbolizing regrowth against the charred and silent scenery. More than 4 decades later, the story of Mount St. Helens continues to resonate through time as a reminder of our planet's fickle character. What took minutes to destroy is a timeless lesson on the power of nature, a scar upon the Earth, yet also a symbol of transformation. Since then, scientists and historians have pored over her story to glean insights into the magnitude of volcanic activity. Every upward curve of a graph, every tectonic rumble, is another page in the unfolding narrative of understanding. This tale, etched into the very annals of nature herself, calls us toward humility. After witnessing such undeniable power, who can ever doubt the dynamic forces that sculpt our world? It reveals a profound truth. The Earth is alive, a breathing entity, powerful beyond measure, yet nurturing when calmed. For those who once clung to life amidst her fury, the narrative is still vivid, a raw and personal saga. For others, it stands as an awe-inspiring chapter from the storybook of history. And every new generation that learns this tale gains reverence for the Earth's capabilities. Even now, survivors visit the rejuvenated landscape, some in memoriam, some seeking closure. They remember the mountain's mad dance and reckon with their place under the vast, unyielding sky that, too, once darkened day. In the end, Mount St. Helens reminds us to respect the forces beyond our control and to celebrate the resilience found within. If you were the contrast between new growth and scars of the past, with figures reflecting under a clear sky graced by light returning through dispersed ash,